A dastardly attack on a revered religious shrine that sent shockwaves through Pakistan. The suicide attack killed at least 90 people and dented the growing optimism over the nation's security after several years of relative calm. And with ISIS on a retreat in Iraq and Syria, will Pakistan now emerge as the new hotbed of terror in the region? Thursday, February 16th, 2017. A day when the famous Lal Shahbaz Qalandar shrine in Sehwan in Pakistan was packed with devotees who performed a ritual known as Damal. It's a form of ecstatic devotional dance observed by many followers of Sufism, a mystical school of Islam. Sufism has been practiced in Pakistan for centuries, but radical Sunni militant groups despise the Sufis. Just like the Shias, they regard Sufi Muslims as heretics. On that fateful day, a suicide bomber approached the Damal area and detonated his suicide jacket. At the last count, 90 were dead, including many women and children.
मैंने यहाँ पे देखा कि क़यामत सुगरा जैसा मंजर था। यहाँ पे दरगाह लाल शहबाज कलंदर के अंदर अहाते में यहाँ जो सहन है पूरा, यहाँ पे हज़ारों की तादाद में ज़ायरीन थे, रो रहे थे। क़यामत सुगरा जैसा मंजर था, कोई किसी को उठाने वाला नहीं था।
भाई जैसे ही इंटर हुए कोई पता ही नहीं चला। इंटर होने के फ़ौरन बाद एक भयानक सी आवाज़ आई। तब तो कोई ख्याल नहीं था कि कोई बम ब्लास्ट है, तब तो कोई ख्याल नहीं था कि बम ब्लास्ट है, लेकिन ये अचानक ख्याल आया कि आज हम मर गए।
High casualty attack. It targeted a soft target, which is a place of religious worship, and it targeted the attack at a very strategic point in time. So Thursday, for Sufi shrines, it's a religious day where a lot of people come in, they engage in dhamal, which is a specific type of religious worship that is done through dancing. So there were a lot of people attending at the time, which resulted in mass casualties.
I think it was one of the most devastating attacks that had taken place in Pakistan in the last 3 years, and it completely sort of shattered and shocked the nation. 11 incidents in the last 5 days, and this, of course, being the biggest.
The ghastly attack on the centuries-old shrine dedicated to the Sufi saint Lal Shahbaz Qalandar raises the spectre of a return of terror after months of relative calm. ISIS, the terror network based in Syria and Iraq, also known as Daesh, quickly claimed responsibility, raising concern that ISIS is spreading its tentacles in Asia. Some observers believe Jamaat-ul-Ahrar, a faction of the band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan that's linked to ISIS, was the actual perpetrator of the attack.
I think some of these militant organizations like Majlis-e-Ahrar and, again, those who have defected from the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, or even Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan itself, in order to improve its brand, wants to associate itself with Daesh. But essentially these are, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan's or its variants, which are committing, along with Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, these incidents.
ISIS Afghanistan has established some sort of coordination with the ISIS proper in Syria and Iraq, and the intel suggests that after their defeat in Iraq and Syria, they would make their way, or they are on their way to failed nations, i.e. Afghanistan and Libya. So I think that would lead to a grave situation in terms of terrorism that would ultimately lead to instability in the whole region, not only Pakistan but across Eurasia region.
Many of the Sufi shrines in Pakistan have become convenient targets by ISIS and its affiliates. And they justify their violence as attacks against what they view as the impure manifestations of the Islamic faith. The jihadi groups have also used the same justification in the past to attack Shias and Ahmadis, as well as people belonging to other faiths.
This is a way of ISIS trying to assert its presence within South Asia, within Afghanistan and Pakistan, trying to fit in within the jihadist community and trying to assert its presence as its version of exclusivist Islam as being the only version that Muslims should subscribe to. And the form of Sufi Islam that these shrines evoke, it's very moderate, it's very inclusivist, it's very syncretic. So that is directly a threat to jihadist groups that have been present in Pakistan previously, like the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, sectarian outfits such as Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, and now the networks of ISIS as well.
Sometimes they are attacking the judiciary, sometimes the armed forces, sometimes it turns out to be a sectarian killing. But the reality is they are using all fault lines within Pakistan. They're exploiting the weaknesses in the system and also thereby obfuscating the reality of the real perpetrators.
For 65-year-old businessman Sada Haji Anwar, the latest upsurge in violence is forcing him to relive his days of horror. The attack occurred about a decade ago during the leadership of former President Pervez Musharraf. Anwar, who runs a restaurant and trades in household commodities in Islamabad, was having a conversation with a couple of his friends at a nearby market when a terror attack tore through several shops in the area. Although he survived the ordeal, the blast ripped his right leg apart.
खौफ तो बिल्कुल है क्योंकि हम भी तो आराम से अपने बिजनेस कर रहे थे, अपना कारोबार कर रहे थे, एकदम में धमाका हुआ, हमारी टांगें चली गई, डिप्रेशन के शिकार हो गया। मैं 3 साल में डिप्रेशन का शिकार रहा सर, चारपाई के ऊपर। मेरा कारोबार ख़त्म हो गया था, मेरा सब कुछ लेना देना। कोमे में मैं रहा 3 साल। अब मैं ठीक हुआ हूँ कुछ थोड़ा, वो आकर मैंने अपना कारोबार, और फिर भी डर है कि जिस हो रहा है मुल्क में इंतशार हो रहा है तो किसी वक्त ही नुकसान हो सकता है। खौफ तो है ना सर, 2-4 आदमी इकट्ठे होते हैं, खौफ पैदा हो जाता है कि क्या पता फिर कोई ऐसा हादसा हो जाए।
Like Anwar, the life of 65-year-old politician and businessman Dr. Israr Shah also underwent a dramatic change a decade ago. Dr. Israr was attending to a gathering of politicians and lawyers in the capital when a bomb was hurled at his feet.
Bomb blasted, and the bomb was almost near to my feet, so this was so close. And the pressure of the bomb, I've been moved by the pressure of the bombs on the upside, and the bomb threw me at least 10-15 feet away from the chair where I was sitting. Thank God, God saved me, and I was in the senses till the hospital.
The shrine assault was by far the worst in a wave of militant attacks in recent weeks, but it wasn't the last. On February 21st, a suicide attack on a court complex in Charsada in northwest Pakistan killed 6 people. And last week, a blast in a Lahore shopping area left 10 dead and several injured. The spate of attacks forced the armed forces to close the country's border with Afghanistan. where Pakistani officials claim many such attacks are coordinated and plotted. They also killed more than 100 suspected militants in response to an attack on the shrine. But will tough security measures and military offensives alone turn the tide of violence gripping the country and put an end to the terrorist scourge? An uneasy calm prevails in Pakistan as it launched a nationwide crackdown on jihadi groups. Media reports say more than 100 Islamist militants have been killed or captured in a sweeping retaliatory offensive following the Lal Shahbaz Qalandar shrine attack in Sehwan. Pakistan also closed its border with Afghanistan, accusing Kabul of harbouring militants believed to be behind most of the bombings. The same accusation has also been directed at Islamabad by the Afghan government, insisting that Pakistan has for years been sheltering anti-Afghan Taliban forces on its side of the border. The truth is, militant groups that originally sprung from the Soviet-Afghan War of the 1990s have not been disarmed. Today, they've morphed into homegrown terror networks linked to ISIS and pose a significant threat to both countries.
It all began with the funding of the anti-Soviet Mujahideen with the support of the CIA, which joined hands with Pakistan's intelligence agencies to train, mentor and dispatch Afghan Mujahideen into Afghanistan. That was the first generation of jihadis. Now I think we are dealing with the byproduct of the second generation of jihadis, which are terrorists, which are mercenaries, which are serving somebody else's objectives.
The previous generation of jihadists or the previous generation of terrorists in Pakistan were mostly educated through the madrasas. They had gained experience through the Soviet-Afghan war. They were the Mujahideen, offshoot of the Afghan Taliban. But now what you see is this the youth, essentially, those ranging from the age of 18 to 30, ideologically motivated, conducting attacks for ISIS, operating ISIS cells in isolation. So these individuals are being radicalized. These individuals are being attracted towards extremist ideas.
Today, the threat level has increased a few notches. Jihadi groups that originated from the Afghan war, such as Jama'at-ul-Ahrar, a faction of Pakistani Taliban, now consider Pakistan as their legitimate target. Jama'at-ul-Ahrar has claimed responsibility for some of the recent attacks and has also threatened to carry out more attacks on Shia, Ahmadi and Pakistani military targets as part of its Operation Ghazi. Analysts believe that the problem of militancy in Pakistan will not die down so long as the government continues to tolerate selective militant structures to help its own covert wars.
This criticism of Pakistan allowing ideologically motivated groups to survive and to exist on its soil are justified when it's related to the past, because Pakistan has had a good Taliban, bad Taliban distinction. We have allowed Kashmiri-oriented jihadist groups to operate from within our soil as long as they don't target us. We have at the same time allowed the Afghan Taliban to be based on our soil as long as they don't attack us and they target Afghanistan. That is an approach that Pakistan adopted in the past, but now there is significant resolve to change it.
The terror threat has become widespread, with a multiplicity of terror groups with complex linkages. On an average, 38 attacks have taken place every month over the last 6 months. And according to some estimates, 441 terrorist attacks took place last year, killing more than 900 people. As the crisis deepens and the death toll mounts, Pakistan is desperately looking for answers. Will a tough line and a no-holds-barred military operation succeed in uprooting the terror cells that are threatening the very foundations of the state? Just days after the brutal assault on the Lal Shahbaz Qalandar shrine in Sehwan, the wave of grief and anger that gripped the nation following the senseless tragedies has now been replaced with a sense of quiet defiance. Thousands are back at the shrine to offer prayers, refusing to be cowed down by threats of terror. But the key question that's being asked is, why have the authorities failed to address the ongoing threat of Islamist violence and the forces that feed it? In the aftermath of the massacre of 141 students and teachers at an elite army school just over 2 years ago, the government had implemented a national action plan to counter the growing militancy and terrorism in the country. But the lack of political will to take on highly tenacious and unrelenting militant groups in the country has rendered the efforts somewhat meaningless and ineffective.
The government had promised its civilians that they would work on the National Action Plan. They would ensure that in the long term, terrorism is wiped out from Pakistan and that extremist narratives, their traction is reduced within the society. But there hasn't been much effort, or there hasn't been much done with regards to the National Action Plan. This surge in violence goes to show that the gains of military operations are essentially very limited. They faced temporary operational defeats. But now that they have started to regain their presence and they've come back stronger than ever.
The government may also have been lulled into a false sense of security by a relative calm in the country over the last few months following its aggressive operations to drive out Taliban militants along its borders with Afghanistan. But its military operations and the decision to close the border with Afghanistan in the wake of the shrine attack may not help put an end to the problem of Islamic militancy in the country, so long as it fails to address the root causes of terrorism.
I don't think closing border would really help bring an end to the wave of terrorism, because by closing the border, Pakistan made the world to believe that as if the Afghan border is the only source of terrorism in this country. Terrorism in Pakistan is the consequence of a proxy war with Afghanistan, with India, and this will continue regardless whether the borders are closed or open.
I think what Pakistan needs is an approach that is enemy-centric and at the same time people-centric as well. So you don't only need to focus on countering the terrorists through killing them, but you also need to focus on countering the terrorists through ideology and through promoting moderation within the society. Because one thing that is problematic within the Pakistani society is that slowly extremist narratives are gaining more traction than moderate and liberal narratives.
Apart from some of its religious schools or madrasas, which appear to have implanted the seeds of terrorism in young minds, endemic poverty, unemployment, the spillover effects of the war in Afghanistan, and deep sectarian identities have also led to the growth of militancy in the country. The attack on the venerated Sufi shrine is but a symptom of a bigger problem. With every mindless act of terror, the militants hope to undermine the very foundations of a society that once thrived on the values of tolerance, diversity, and inclusiveness. The terrorists have one sole aim, that of intimidating masses, spreading fear, and driving a wedge between the multi-ethnic communities in the country. But survivors such as Dr. Israr have not given up hope. He has started life afresh and has vowed to fight for the principles that he believes in, despite all his physical limitations.
I don't want to be present in our lives. And I never been. If your thoughts are with you, if your convictions are with you, if your motivations are with you, then nothing worries come in. I am fighting for the rule of law. I was thinking that I was fighting for the democracy in the country. I was thinking that I was performing the duty as per order of my party. I am not ashamed of my role. I am proud of my role.
कल इतना बड़ा धमाका हुआ है, हमारे हौसले आज भी बुलंद हैं। हम नमाज जुमा अदा करने आए हैं, दरबार पर हाजिरी देने आए हैं। आज भी हाजिरी देंगे, कल भी हाजिरी देंगे, हमेशा देते रहेंगे। हम इनसे डरने वाले बिल्कुल नहीं हैं।
मैसेज ये है कि ये बुज़दिलाना कार्रवाइयाँ किसी का अज़्म और हौसला नहीं तोड़ सकती। ये सदियों से होता आ रहा है और ये ज़ालमाना कार्रवाइयाँ हर वक्त होती आ रही हैं और इसमें हमेशा मासूम लोगों की जानें ज़ाया होती हैं, नुकसान होता है, लेकिन इससे हमारा अज़्म और ज़्यादा मजबूत होता है और ये इसमें तो वह है जो छुप के वार करता है। हम तो भाई अभी भी इधर ही खड़े हैं, कल भी यहीं खड़े होंगे।
Will Pakistan win the battle against terror that is not only wreaking havoc in the country, but is also posing a challenge to the region and the rest of the world? Will the nation succeed in carrying the fight to the finish with sustained effort, unflinching commitment and dedication? Observers believe Pakistan has hardly any choice, in fact, none at all, other than to defeat terrorism once and for all, no matter how long it takes.
It's not a choice that we have to pick up, it's the survival. It is the survival of the country of more than 200 million. There is no ifs and buts. So we have to do what we are supposed to do it. So it's a one-way street. We have to defeat this menace, full stop.
So I think we need effort at the individual country level and also collectively, regional level as well as the entire Muslim world needs to also reform itself, take a common position against militancy in order to eliminate this curse.